part 2, where we are going to talk about triggers. The idea that in our Molinete moves and in pivots, we can use that as a trigger to spark us to run our checklist of how we are doing.
Let's get started.
Now, whenever we're learning something new, particularly a new skill, our body is more comfortable with the way that we're used to doing it. When we're learning new things, we want to find a way to remind ourselves to use that new technique.
Yes.
And one of the common ways is with trigger points. Things that will remind us, oh yeah, I have this new technique that we're working on.
Mm-hmm. And we like our trigger points to be things that occur quite frequently in the dance. Then it gives us plenty of chances to check back in with our body, check back in with our intention, see, are we doing what we want to be doing? So the Molinete is a great trigger point because we use Molinete all the time. It also is a great pattern that can lead itself to really fun things like cicadas and ganchos and all the fun stuff that followers want. I want those things. A lot of times they come from the Molinete. So let's take a look at how we can bring our power and our understanding of the Molinete to the equation to then open up possibilities for my leader to actually lead fun things. Yes? So basic Molinete. Let's just, you're dancing along, you're not really thinking, you're just kind of zoning out. We might give a Molinete like this. Not Arjun's favorite, and it's okay because there was not a lot going on within my body purposely. Okay, I felt like you probably felt like you had to kind of drag me through every single step. Would you agree? Right. What are the other things that?
Of course, to be fair, there was no music playing, so that wasn't really motivating us.
Yeah.
Still, when we're practicing without music, we'd like to use our best energy and best form.
Mm-hmm. Did you feel that Molinete was open to possibilities?
I felt like we had to get through it.
Yes, exactly. So let's take a look at what it might look like if I embody moving as if it were my own idea. He started the Molinete. I know the Molinete because I'm a good tango student. I've studied my patterns and I know what's going on. Now let's see what happens if we actually embody this movement and move on our own. So you notice we got some nice fun footwork through Arjun. Why? Why were you able to do that second time?
We could play off of each other's energy. That Tina was moving with power, and I could actually use that energy for my lapis, and you were feeling the energy too to know when to move with me.
Exactly. So we were both sharing, if you will, the burden of this circular movement. And like Arjun was saying, because I was moving my own body, he didn't have to use mental or physical energy to worry about moving me.
Right, I didn't have to anchor myself and help my partner move around. They knew the program.
That's right.
And they were stable, so I could be stable and play around.
Mm-hmm. The other thing about opening up the Molinete to other possibilities is giving your leader a nice window of opportunity. So take, for instance, my forward crossing step in the Molinete. That is oftentimes a trigger point for things like cicadas. If my forward crossing step is very small, I am giving my leader a very small window, and he probably wouldn't even take it, right? Most good leaders would recognize that wasn't the ideal possibility for me to do a cicada. Versus if I actually move my body with some drive and open up those windows for possibilities, then he can recognize I've got kind of a wide margin, if you will, for error, so I don't have to be worried about, am I going to step on my partner's toes or kick somebody or whatever. He has the options, he has the time to be able to add in those little embellishments that we like so much.
Mm-hmm. Right, and with that space, I can take a definite movement. We're exchanging positions, and that very act of those changing positions adds power that we're able to play with again.
So once again, at any time that you're encountering a molinete within your practice or within the milonga itself, the dance, take that moment to do a mental checklist. Am I moving with my own power? Am I opening up nice big windows of opportunity for my leader? Am I helping the energy or am I sucking the energy away? We don't like that.
Now, to continue our idea of trigger points, one that comes up all the time in the tango is the pivot, part of an ocho, because that's how we re-aim our hips to move in a different direction.
So whenever you are dancing, the ocho is a great point to mentally pause and do kind of a checklist to see if we are dancing as an empowered follower. And there are a few things that help make our part come to the table, if you will. The first thing that we want to think about is, what is the energy that my partner is giving me through the frame? Energy is something, a dial that can be dialed up and dialed back down again. And oftentimes the correlation between the amount of energy is equal to the speed of the pivot that the leader is about to lead.
And in those pivots, our model is using a pressure device. So the pressure between our hands and on our arms signal a pivot. And that may be a push or a pull pressure.
So as Arjun is slowly ramping up the energy through his frame, I have to make sure as an empowered follower that I match this. What we want to avoid is Arjun begins to give me pressure and then I just collapse.
Then the energy's lost.
Exactly. And I cannot respond to that signal because, like Arjun said, it's been lost to the wind. And that also creates a certain delay, a certain lag in the communication between what Arjun is trying to suggest for the next movement and then my follow through. So a nice calibration within Ochos is to, with your partner, go through just as a follower, giving 0 matching energy, which you just saw. He goes to lead a Ocho and I just collapse underneath it. Not good, right? Work it all the way up to maybe a 5, which would be our nice even. He gives the energy, I'm responding equally to it. That, as you can see, allows him to create smaller, more fun hovering movements, boleos, leg wraps, things like that. All the way up to a 10. Give your partner a 10 in the energy and see how much he likes that. See how it kind of stifles the amount of movement that we have available to us? So this is a great way to calibrate with your partner, to ask your partner, am I matching your energy as it ramps up, but just as importantly, also as it comes back down.
Right. 2 things we're going to feel. As long as the pressure's on, even if it's a light amount of pressure, we're asking for that pivot to continue. If we use a heavy amount of pressure, it indicates the speed of the action.
And as long as I'm matching, I'm able to get that communication of my partner. We're much more in sync, and then it feels like we're moving as one, which we like very much.
Now, speaking of moving as one, we actually, when we're pivoting, we want to move as several parts, as a cylinder made up of sections that can rotate. So I may be starting up here, but not committing my whole body all at once.
This is an incredibly important point for many reasons, not just because we are creating a spiral-like springing motion within our body when we move different sections, as opposed to everything moving at the same time, but it allows me to be a little bit patient in interpreting the lead. Because if I move too quickly, for instance, Arjun's trying to lead a forward Ocho, right? If I just move everything kind of at the same time, there's no delay there between the signal that I got from him and the movement of my whole body.
Right. And on the other hand, if our partner gives us no reaction at the beginning, we wonder, well, what do I need to do? And then you run into the possible problem of overleading, overmoving. But so long as my partner is responding, oh, okay, now we can respond to what's happening in the music, perhaps, or what's happening on the floor.
So if I dissociate my upper body from my middle, from my lower, we get a forward Ocho that looks a little bit more as we come around. I'm going to follow, but notice that my hips are still facing this way, but I'm beginning to rotate my poise and my posture towards my partner, and then the rest of the body can come through. It creates a much more elegant aesthetic to our Ochos, also having the benefit of being far more connected to your partner.
Part of that idea of taking each step as if it was our own idea.
And speaking of that, the last kind of thing that we would like for you to do your checklist on. First, did I match the energy in my upper body or through the frame? Second, did I separate that energy and that connection from my upper to my lower, right? Spiraling down. The third thing that we would like you to remember or think of is that when you're actually taking the step for the Ocho, again, like Arjun said, moving as if it were your own idea. So some things to possibly contemplate in forward Ochos, okay? As I'm going for my forward Ocho, we don't get to walk forward very often as followers in our Ochos. Own that movement. Drive your own forward movement. We never want to, go ahead. See how I short stepped that? See, he didn't like that because he had wanted a movement that went right along with him. But if I am low in energy and I don't, see how I've been left behind and we're no longer moving together? Yeah, he doesn't like that. So we want to think about when we get the chance to go forward in this dance, whether it is a forward walking step because our leader is going backwards, or within circular movements, molinetes and ochos, drive your own body, okay? Move your own self. Don't be something that has to kind of be dragged along. And then as we're going into our backwards steps for our backwards ochos and our backwards walking, which is most of the time, remember that even though we stretch for a movement, that might not be the final landing place. Be prepared, have the balance and stability to potentially slide that a little bit further than what we thought. That applies to our backwards Ocho steps as well.
When learning new skills, in addition to getting feedback, say from the video that we're reviewing, or from our partner, or from a teacher, we can use imagery to help us get the idea of what we're trying to get across.
That can be very powerful. Sometimes just embodying a certain image of what you want to be or want to look like can cover a lot of things. So some of the imagery that we love for the 3 different dances within tango is we like to think of your traditional tango with the imagery of a river. It's fluid, it's effortless, it's continually flowing, and there's not a lot, while you can have moments of whitewater rapids and calm pools, in general it just keeps on flowing.
Another one that flows is the balls. We love the balls. It has a different character though than the tango. It's a lighter, higher feeling, a flowing, circling feeling.
Yes.
Much like the wind flowing, say, through the trees.
Exactly. And then to wrap it all up, we had our river, we had our wind, and now we have the fire. Milonga brings the fire. It brings the fun, the passion, passionate and the fiery movements, it also brings this fast, quick movement, almost as if you're dancing on hot coals.
One thing that's useful to remember is that any song can play with any of those feelings. That's what's so wonderful about the tango, is that there's so many opportunities for expression.
Mm-hmm. So as the music flows and changes, ask yourself, which element am I embodying at this point in time? Does this music say wind to me, or does it say fire? And then you can match what the musics are doing, or something that we also like to do is you could also dance to the opposite to create contrast. So there's a lot of different ways. We don't always have to be matchy-matchy with our interpretations.
When we're both contributing to the dance, we can have so much more fun. It's not like one partner is controlling the other. It's like we're both creatively making this interpretation of the music.
And that's ultimately what we want to achieve, especially within looking at this Empowered Dancer series, is we want to empower both sides of the coin. We want to empower followers to feel like they are owning their own experience and their own dance. And we want to empower leaders in upcoming videos to increase their musicality and their improvisational techniques. So we look forward to seeing you on the next episode, where we will be taking a look at how we can use the matrix to increase different possibilities and creativity. So until then,